Okay, does anybody have questions for our panel? Yes.
Yeah, hi. My name is Yifeng, and I have a question about what's that called? About love. So love is a love is an interesting construct, right? Can we find love for elderly, and can we find love for persons with special needs? And I hope to hear a bit of your views. Towards the end of life, can we really find love? So I move a little bit in the elderly sector, elder care sector as well, and I've seen elderly fall in love in rental flats and all. But the question I think really is that what is our definition of love, and can we see it happen for our kids with special needs? Can we see it happen for the elderly? And I would like to hear your point of views on this.
Love. Oh. I don't know, but like it depends on your definition of what love is. If you are born in the Disney era, of course you think that there's one true love, right? So the idea that you have somebody down there and like this person fits you and you're supposed to be together. But I don't know, but for me, working with elderly people, I think love comes in many forms. It doesn't mean that if there are people who has been single for the rest of their life, and they lead very fulfilling lives, and they meet wonderful people. And if you're talking about soulmate, I think the idea of soulmate has to be expanded. It's not like you have to marry to this person. And I think the idea or the concept that came from there is probably because we are in the Disney era, so the princesses and all that. So that's how it goes. And the other thing for elderly, you're talking about love. Something that came to my mind is that especially when people volunteers, they want to you want to be a befriender, right? So you have a heart, you want to come down, you want to visit elderly, you want to talk to them, you want to hold activity for them. So there's always a two sides of the story, right? So what it means that, of course, on one hand, you find that this person has a lot of compassion, there's a lot of love, right? A lot of care, so that you want to do something like that. But on the other hand, is that right? Sometimes I'm not sure whether when you're doing this, right, are you really doing it because you are doing it out of altruism, or is it because it helps you to feel better? You know what I mean? Like, for example, like recently there's this new phenomenon, like Singaporeans like to go overseas, like tourism, right? But they don't do tourism, they do like some kind of social, work or some kind of volunteerism over at the country that they're supposed to help, by the way, right? So a lot of times when you ask the parents, why you want to send your children to these places? So that they can recognize the fact that Singaporeans are very fortunate. That kind of reason is like, okay, so you know what I mean? So the idea or it's not so much about the action. I mean, action, you can do something, right? But the whole thing's about, even if you're talking about love, right? What's the intention and where does it come from? What is it? So I think that's probably to think about, for us to think about.
For me, I think love is very real for persons with special needs, with disabilities, because they don't have much. I mean, while they are not so able in the head, they are very, very able in the heart. I think for them, love is number one. Because of my journey with my son loves very well. And I always say, if one day Sebastian ever fall in love, that's the luckiest woman on earth. Yeah. So I think love is very real for them. They can really love, but it is us. It is me as a parent. I think I'm very worried that Sebastian ever falls in love. How to manage. I think of all the problems that comes about because of the love and the relationship and how he's going to manage his life. But I think if we leave them, I think love is very real, and it is the only thing they know for people with special needs. And in Mumbury Oaks, the reason why the volunteers are very committed to our program and they come regularly is because they experience love with our members, because of their simplicity, their the way they are. you just can't help but to, with time and with being with people with special needs, you realize that they really love, they really care for one another.
I don't want to be the only one on the panel with no thoughts on love. I think you weren't asking about like love between a couple. This was more of like a societal love, concern for well-being of others. So what I would suggest is, and what I try to do in my life is, it's natural for us to have very high concern for the well-being of others that are close to us, our family and our very close friends. And they're kind of those concentric rings where it kind of drops and drops that goes out. And I think, where I'm from in the U.S., we're very bad about that in general. And in Asia, you're much more generally collectivist societies where you're better about that. And so what I try to do is try to push that out and have that concern for others as much as possible. And I think that if we all do that, the more that we do that, the better society we'll have in general.
All right. While we're waiting for other questions, I have one to ask to Chris. We're looking at SMU as an educational institution. Obviously, we want to make sure that we provide the right education, the right skills for our students for the future, and this and that. Now, since you touch upon this concept of preparing for the future, and sort of maybe being innovative in the type of education that we provide. What do you think of if there's one argument that I don't think everybody should go to the sort of the traditional education, right? Because sometimes there's always a strong sense of college education is sort of like the key success factor that would change your life. And then people go into the real world, they realize that master's degree now is almost like the new bachelor. Everybody has a master's degree, and then oftentimes, not everybody, but most, it's almost like, okay, this is another master's degree, and some people even have 2 master's degrees. Okay, yeah, me too. And actually, a lot of our team members as well. We love school, that's what we're here. The outside world is scary. But how do you sort of, perhaps maybe there are a different path, like vocational school and more, schools that are more specialized and then sort of exploring their creativity and things like that. I mean, are we looking at things the wrong way here?
Well, I think anything I say is going to be opinion here. I don't think there's any answers to those questions. But I think we're entering a period where people could get a lot of what they get out of college through other methods. There's a lot of stuff available on the web. You can do Coursera courses and things like that. You can watch YouTube videos. There's a lot of different things you can get it to learn facts and to learn systems and things like that. But you don't get the guidance, you don't have someone putting that together for you, you don't get the corrective action to where someone helps you go, no, you're not quite getting this right. So there's an awful lot that formal education still offers. The question is, what does it lead to? I think what we need to do is we need to experiment a lot. We need to look at the models of education, the things that we teach, and continually adapt to try to be just in front of what's needed, so that the people that will continue to come through and get the benefits that they need from it.
And perhaps also the key is one size doesn't fit all, right? So perhaps there are some people it's better perhaps for them, they can learn better when it's in a structured environment, and there are some people that actually like it in a different type of system where maybe there are a lot more freedom to do whatever. I mean, it's not for all. Now, Chris, Matt, I want to sort of ask you about this sort of having a meaning, right? How does a society? Why we are at the point where having a meaningful life is no longer what people are after? I mean, it gotta be not, it's not like that, right? I mean, I don't think so. But perhaps sometimes there are things that are happening in our lives, and sometimes the reason why I said that is because I remember the time when I was, young and we were a child and we just play whatever, and then anything that just made it was easier for us to be happier. And as we grow older, suddenly things are a little bit different. So I wonder whether do we have to go back to sort of that our childlike feeling where just things don't matter as much anymore, or is it by design we cannot escape this sort of the materialistic world that we live in, that we are being judged, that we have to be compared to one another and this and that. So, but how do we navigate through that? I think what I'm trying to ask as well is that instead of waiting until in the later days, are there things that we can do now to prevent feeling that in that space?
Well, I think the short answer is, how could we lead life with the end in mind? Okay, the reason I'm saying this is that I'm not advocating for the fact that, say for example, if you think that like some things are maybe more superficial, like money or position or something like that, it's meaningless. No, it's not. It's meaningful for the person because that's what's important for the person, right? At a point in time. It's just that our meaning changes along the way, right? So in order for you to kind of figure out what's going to be your ultimate purpose, or like what's ultimately meaningful for you, you just kind of have to have the idea that someday I'm not going to be around, and you have the end in mind, and somehow when you have that concept, you will decide that, okay, because I'm not going to live forever, how am I going to better use of my time now? So that will then spur you to think about things. So that's number one. And you're talking about like 100 years ago and like maybe like now, is it because people are becoming less happy and all that? Actually, I mean, people back then in the past struggle a lot. People in the present moment also struggle a lot. I mean, people in the future also struggle a lot. I mean, this will never change as long as we're alive, right? I mean, so that's one. But some things have changed. So for example, I can share with you guys. 100 years ago, if you have TB, tuberculosis, right? Going to the hospital is just one possible option. So it's almost like going to a Chinese TCM. It's like, would you want to try hospital? Maybe you could have a chance. Back then, people. So if you have TB, you probably only have about 1-2 months lifespan, and then you're dead. So you bring to the hospital, the doctor will tell you, please bring back. We can't do anything for you. That was 100 years ago. And then what happened is when you come back, you'll be surrounded by families taking care of you. And back then, the quality of that was better, so much better. So 100 years later, what happened? Oh, okay, so you'll be in ICU with all the tubes inside. So you have NG tube feeding you with things. You say you want to go back home, okay, then your family members want to take care of you, right? And then you see the professional nurse coming in to do all sorts of stuff, and your family members are like, oh, I can't do that. We can't take care of you because we don't know how to. What if something happened? You see. So what happened along the way? 100 years later, the family members are all disempowered. So you have your professional people coming in and say that, look, this is the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do. But I mean, like, people are dying, what do they need? I mean, seriously, they just need people to be around, care and concern, psychosocial support, right? I mean, you can't really cure. The only thing that the nurses could do is just to give you morphine, manage your pain, right? And then after that, you just want to spend time with your family. So what I'm trying to say is that things will change, but I think that because we don't stop and think, so we always think that, like what Chris mentioned, yesterday will look like today, and maybe tomorrow will look like tomorrow, but who knows, right? It's not always the case, and we always have the idea that, I will just die, maybe like of heart attack, or some illness. That's not true. You can die 1,001 ways. You can just go out and suddenly, heart attack and die, or got an accident, and just the life can just be taken away from you. So the only way you can I think a good way for you to find meaning, right? It's for you to decide that I'm not going to live forever, and then you walk backwards from there. Yeah.
Do we have other questions from the floor? Yes, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Diana. I'm with the Memory Oaks team and a volunteer there. But I formerly worked as a psychiatrist
And my perspective is very much about an inclusive society, including the healthcare that we provide and the social opportunities that are available. I was interested in all three of our presentations, but taking you back to your presentation and thinking about education, what are we educating for? Is it to fulfill our higher existential needs for, creativity and beyond, or are we aiming for careers? So one of the biggest problems locally and internationally is finding people who are interested in those careers for care, and so providing individualized and what sound like authentic activities of daily living for older people, so as to create authentic meaning rather than some mass-produced basket weaving project which sort of helps, collude with this idea of institutionalization, helplessness, and passive receipt of all the sort of services that the good-willed and big-hearted of us want to bestow upon other people. But I was just wondering, you talked about the future of careers, the mundane and the not so mundane, and I wondered about caring. So in our community at Mallory Oaks, we have a lot of people from varied professional and educational backgrounds volunteering their time to provide what historically might have been regarded as mundane, but actually requires a high degree of executive functioning, anticipating the communication needs of a stranger with intellectual disabilities, anticipating their opportunities for progress, development, and improvement. And I just wondered what future you see in bearing in mind your information and your knowledge of how different careers and opportunities might develop in the future.
Well, I don't know much about that sector, so I have to preface with that. I think most careers, a lot of careers are going to be changing a lot. I think what we'll see in a lot of places is technology eroding away not so much individual jobs, but parts of jobs. And what we'll see is the people that are left behind, that are still there, will do what's left and new things. But I don't think that probably really helps with what you're looking at, because I think what you're talking about is mostly a social thing. It's not so much technology driven. And there may be things where technology can help provide better care, but I think it's more about giving proper training and have people who care about other human beings getting in there and spending time with them and making a difference in their lives. And unfortunately, I don't have that expertise. I don't think I can offer you much.
Yeah, so just think about how our education can be reformulated to restore the value that we used to have, slightly romanticized about the caring professions, particularly nursing, for example, and those caring professions or other things.
Okay, so a little more generally, one of the things that I think is really important, I look at a lot of people who go into like business schools and into technical fields through school, and they have a very strong desire, a lot of passion around doing something, especially the ones that are going into like Silicon Valley, and they want to build the next great app, and they really have a lot of passion for that. And I want to see, I want to push people that are going down that path to bring in the humanities with their education, because I think it's great. You have this amazing talent that you can do all sorts of things with it. But a lot of what we're doing with that talent, to me, it's not producing value. It's actually extracting value from humanity, and I want to see people caring more about each other and that underpinning that education.
Any other questions? I know. I have a question for you. You talk about sort of your experience of having a special need child. Now, I would think that even within sort of growing up, even when you don't have you're not in a special needs class or things like that. Kids can be mean in general, and they're for some reason they're just sort of any kind of something that is not according to the norm, it would be made fun of. I said that because I was bullied when I was still a kid for a number of reasons that now looking back I'm just ridiculous why I was being bullied, and for I'm a left-handed, people make fun of me, and they'll tease me because I'm a left-handed because everybody else is right-handed, because that's what the society taught you. And then I remember that even growing up, some other parents will tell my mom, say, oh, why you let your son be a left-handed, as if like it's something wrong with that end, or growing up and I was among the youngest in my class. So it's always been, so I get bullied as well and this and that. Now, oftentimes, parents can do their best to protect their children when they're at home. But when they get out, then suddenly they face this sort of almost a duality of reality, right? That you're at home, you have this maybe respectful family, loving and caring and this and that. And then when you go out, well, there are some people that are not operating the same way, and they can be very aggressive, and they can be very, demeaning and things like that. How do people, again, like what can people do? Those are also watching at home and the readers. What can do? Is there something else that they can do to sort of ease this sort of sometimes confusion that a lot of young people face? Is like, well, once I get out of the house, I face this way. And then there's a fear. Then people don't want to get out of the house, and then there will become isolation at a certain times, and then starting to feel like, well, I don't know, this and that. Wondering if you have some thoughts about that.
Yes, I think for most of us parents, that's what we fear. So I think in order to protect them, most parents prefer to keep them at home. Yeah. One, we don't want our kids to be bullied, and number two, we don't want our kids to be made fun of, and we also feel very uncomfortable as parents when we see the way the public react to our children. But I think it takes both sides to try and be more socially inclusive. For one, I always tell the parents, do not be afraid. Let your kids go. Bring them out, show them. I think the public need to be desensitized. They need to know that there are people out there who are not like us. There are people out there who don't behave like us, and there's a reason why this autistic child all of a sudden, and yet seeing that you may feel suddenly shocked, but because you know this is okay, he's not going to do anything to you, and if you are exposed long enough, you will feel very comfortable, and you might just say to give him a high five, and that's okay. I think, and the children, especially children, they need to be exposed to the other children with disabilities. Sebastian was very fortunate that we were able to send him to Dovercourt Prep School when he was starting to go to school. For 4 years he was there. He was in a special needs class, but very fully integrated in a mainstream school. So he got to do dramas, he gets to go in the canteen and buy food with regular children. And the kids there are wonderful because they are, not because they are very special, some of my friends said because they are more, so they are different. But it's because they are very exposed. They are very, very exposed. It's very regular for them. They know how to deal with them. They know what to do. I think that is important. I was also involved in a social enterprise where we run canteen in schools, canteen stores in school, and we engage the adults with disabilities. It was wonderful because it exposed the kids in the school to people with disabilities. Initially, the kids were also like, do not know what to do with these people. They are so slow and they get their orders wrong, But through time, they got used to it, and they know how to wait, and they know even how to talk to them. I think that's important.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I think Mark is talking about death avoidance, right? Who is avoiding death? The person dying or you? I mean, clear about
Our entire society is death avoidant. I give an example. There's one good practice in Singapore. It's like your funeral in Singapore will be located at your flats downstairs, right? Increasingly over the past 20 years, more and more deaths are actually located at the funeral parlor.
Yeah.
And then we are trying to take death out from our sight. And it's very common, you know, when you have a funeral process here, and you see people like going one big round, just to avoid this thing. And then like 7 months, there's this Hungry Ghost festival, and people will go back early and all that. So we have our partners in NTU. They did an activity. It's called I Died Today. And what we did was we get 50 participants to be in a public space, and they go through a process of writing their own eulogy, and we have people covering their white cloth and going through a process like as though as today is the day you die, and there will be things and people read up to you. It was filmed. It went to the media, and then after that, I think one of the media actually posted the video on Facebook. And the first few comments that came out was like, "Are you crazy? Looking for death in 7 months? These people are, all sorts of things." What I'm trying to say is that like, when you do something like that, people will say, "No, this is not what you usually do. We don't talk about death." But that's not true. It's like, we had a speaker last time, and he shared that it's not true that Asians don't talk about death. It's just that we use different language. For example, in Korea, so if you want to, if the matriarch, the matron mother is passing on, they won't say, it's different from the West. We won't ask people to come and say, "I love you" and all that. It's not like that. But what they will do is that come over here, ask a doctor and the daughter-in-law to come over, and then say that I'm going to teach you the dish of our family. It's like you have to learn so that you can, in the future, if you want to have something like that, then you are supposed to cook and for your husband and your son. That is really talking about death. It's just a different way. You know what I mean? So when we see death avoidance, I think the idea is that generally we don't discuss. So that cut across many dimensions in society. So for example, advanced care plan, there's only about 10,000 people in Singapore that does advanced care plan. And even if we I did a small booth, I have a little research going on, and I was just trying to promote advanced care plan within healthcare sector. And advanced care plan came from healthcare sector. It's in Singapore, so they are actively promoting. And out of 100 and can't remember what's the exact number, out of 100 old people that came, only less than 3% should done their own advanced care plan, even in healthcare setting. And out of these 3%, because I know some of these people, some of them from agency or integrated care, and they helped me to do the survey. So actually, in reality, it's less than 1%. So we have a long way to go.
And then more about your meaningful death, right? You have a project called the Meaningful Death, right? Good death. That's against the perspective of it, So like, person is dying, and then he's just dying, and then he's not even aware that he's not having a meaningful life before that, and he just died. So when you look at him, you say, "Oh, this guy didn't do anything good, so maybe his life not so meaningful. So you want to do something, but that kind of thing. But that is
Okay, so
where's the angle of approach,
Okay, so the idea, there's two parts to it. When we decide on the name Good Death, when I said, okay, I'm going to have this name for my project, it's going to be Good Death. Immediately everyone was like, "Are you sure you're going to be Good Death? You're not going to be able to get any funding." Good Death, no one's going to fund you, right? It's so inauspicious. But I was just thinking that, look, we are already death avoidant. I could have many names, like beautiful names, right? But what if I were to use some other names? Like I say, like I don't know, some names, right? So what happened is that then even I myself, starting the project, is death avoidant to begin with. So that's number one. Number two is that if we're talking about clinical work, so when let's say for example, if my team is supporting the patient and die in a community, so I think the angle that we're looking at is what we call a dignified death. How dignified is it in the process for the person? So I will share a story with you. I'm a social worker, so I have a lot of stories. So what happened is that we have a client. This client is he has a end-stage liver failure. So his wish is to die at home, right? He doesn't have money. He stays government rental flats. Doesn't have family, single, divorce, all sorts of profile. And then he was there. After he came back from the hospital, I think left about 3 days left of lifespan. And what happened to him was he had incontinence. right? So he was sleeping on this mat. The good thing is that he managed to find 2 friends who's willing to, just stay overnight with him. So he had incontinence, so like, his bowels were all over the mattress. So our guys came, and then together with social workers and some health, our staff, cleared the mess for him, and then took the mattress, threw it away, and then bought him a new mattress. And then what would be the natural intervention that you guys would think of? Oh, you should wear a pampers, or you should wear diapers, right? So, but he said he didn't want. Then the friend was like, are you sure? If this thing's going to happen, I think the family service center people are not going to buy you another new mattress, Okay, then after that, my social worker was very good. So they went in and said, okay, how about you just lay a plastic sheet on the mattress, and then you can just lie on it. And he said, okay, can. What I'm trying to, after we had the debrief, I was just trying to tell my social worker, you see, when you already know you're going to die, right, this is a helpless situation. You cannot stop it. And in midst of that environment, when you're already so helpless, right, what you want is some kind of control. Imagine if you're in a hospital, what the hospital do? No, you have to wear your diapers, you're not. So what happens? It becomes very system-centric. Help you, it's easier, more convenient for you guys. But it's not person-centric. Because this person doesn't want. And all he needs is, I just want to have some control over my life that I'm finding that I don't have control now. So it's just a small thing like, I don't want to wear diapers, cannot. So the idea is, how can we be more person-centric in our approach when it comes to end of life? So when we talk about end of life in terms of the clinical one, what I'm trying to say is more of like a dignified end. So give dignity back to the person. Yeah.
So it's more towards the observers rather than the person dying, right? The
For
surroundings.
the person
right?
dying, for observer, I think
Okay.
for the person dying, the family members and the ones taking care of them.
Okay.
So I heard a couple of comments about socialization. I just want to share something from my perspective. I grew up in the Midwest in St. Louis in the US. Most of the people look like me. Most of the people went to a similar type of church. Most of the people looked at the world pretty much the same way. And most of the people at least pretended to have the same orientation. So you learn a lot of things through socialization. Most of the things that I learned through socialization, or a lot of the things I learned through socialization, over time I've learned to look at differently. Exposure to new ideas, exposure to different people, exposure to different places, different cultures have really changed the way I look at the world. So what I'm trying to do with my own children, with the students that I teach, is I don't try to tell them, this is the way I look at the world. I try to tell them, here are lots of the ways to look at the world, and you can go and update the way you look at the world instead of trying to look at it the way I'm telling you to. And I think, like with my kids, exposing them to as much different cultures and different ideas as possible will hopefully help them to have a more big picture view than I had when I was young. I think I'm hoping that's helpful, and I hope that we can all try to do that, because a lot of these issues that we're talking about, that if we bring awareness to others in a way that's not threatening, we can help make a lot of progress, I think.
I'm going to read out one question that's been sent to me. How do we be inclusive even if others are who resist diversity? How can we be more inclusive when others resist diversity?
I can kind of add on to what I just started with.
Okay.
So one of the ways that I try to help people see things through different lenses is through use of social media. Facebook, I have a lot of connections back where I came from, and people look at the world a lot differently than I do now. And I try to find non-confrontational ways to share different perspectives, share a lot of different articles and stories and things that give people the opportunity, if they're willing to engage with those ideas. And there are a lot of silent participants. So the people who tend to come back at me and really want to argue, it's probably a lot harder to change those opinions, but I still engage and try to be respectful always, and see if you can get them to at least see a different perspective. But while you're doing that, I think you can help a lot of other people who kind of sit on the sidelines see lots of different perspectives, and that in the collective effect can be very positive.
So one element of that is kind of important is the issue of time. So sometimes it's not about whether, I mean, that's a good suggestion about collective action and helping people to understand and all that. Sometimes it's really about time. So for example, like death taboos, I mean, it's not that people don't talk about death, it's just about time. So maybe now when you're young, you don't think about it. But when you fall sick, maybe you start to think about it. So I think the question is maybe at a point of time when you are ready to think about it, is there someone or, will be there to, kind of facilitate this process. So time is it's a very powerful thing. Yeah.
I think we have time for a final question. Yes.
Go ahead. You can take two, both, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Shira, and very thanks for this presentation. So I think if you heard your stories, then and also what Chris just said about awareness, if you look to the education, so like primary, secondary, or university, we have to go around to tell the stories about social inclusion for disabled people, or talking about that, but because it's not something for elderly people, it's also for us, or also for young people to get get around to know that also that topic, because if you are very old and then you're only talking about that, then you are in my opinion too late. So maybe we can also do something in the education to have more awareness about all the kind of things you are addressing us. So maybe that is a thing we can talk about
more. Yeah.
later on.
Yeah, creating the awareness, if I'm awareness and an inclusive environment within the education system. Right?
Yeah, exactly, because
right.
it's also the question you did also talked about from how do you create that people are that you with the resistance, and I think all here people in the room, they are willing to have more social innovation, or that everybody is inclusive, but there are also how many people we want to do that, so that we have to work on that, so during all the stages of our lives, I think.
That is a good point, thank you for pointing that out. And you?
I would like to hear from Madeline. Thank you so much for saying. I'm just wondering, what do you do for fun after taking care of your son?
What do I do?
Like your coping mechanism, like after you spend the whole day taking care of Sebastian and deal with a lot of, challenging moment. How do you cope with such moments? Yeah, it's more like a coping mechanism or coping strategy to deal with that sort of thing. And then I would like to hear from Mark. So much resource has been allocated to create apps and games to help elderly, quote by quote, to kill time or enjoy their time. I was wondering if you have some opinion about that.
Okay, I try to have fun. First and foremost, I do have fun. First and foremost, I think from all of us caregivers, we try to have fun with our with our children with disabilities. I think that would take a lot of the burden of it. And as I always say, I always laugh with Sebastian, and he's quite funny. I always try to look at things that he do that is quirky, but I try to have a good sense of humor. So that makes living and journeying with Sebastian less of a burden, and beginning to see him more as a gift to me in my life. And I think you are right, but not many caregivers are as fortunate as I am. I think many caregivers do feel the great strain and the great burden of looking after the persons with disabilities, and we do see them, we do meet them in our Mumbury Oaks, and that's where we hope that we can offer some help for them by looking after firstly their children and being available so that they can take their time off. They can have the respite. If not, it can be very difficult. It was difficult for me, not only as a person, but also in my relationship with my spouse, having a child with disabilities. Yeah.
So we're talking about games and apps created for elderly people, and then they're just playing games all the time. I would think that a lot of the games that seniors play are very individualistic game. So it's like games that I play and it's just me and the game. So it doesn't really change. It doesn't help you to foster any kind of connection with people. I was thinking that maybe next time if I grow old, and if I'm still playing some kind of Warcraft, or I'm connected to the international community, and the day if I die, I'm like, hey guys, Warrior Xena, 264, I'll be going off. But that will be my era. It will not be that era of my grandfather who doesn't even know how to type, you see. So, and I would think that the games that a lot of seniors are playing right now, they are just like the new television, the old television. Previously, people just watch television, and now they just play games, so there's no interaction. And things that the more they play, the eyesight get worse, right? So it's not a good option. But again, it's just the technology. How you want to use the technology to foster connection with people, having some, again, meaning. Right? It's very meaningless to just keep playing something, and after you finish it, let's go off. Okay, that's it. Right. So what we do in our center, there was once that this little game that they play on desktop, and they keep playing the same thing for 10 years. They just keep playing the same thing, like bingo, and they just keep playing, right? So we just decided let's run a competition. Oh, so there's a meaning to okay, I want to get a higher score. You know what I mean? So it's just a little thing, you just tweak it a little bit, and then you can create something that's very mundane and static to become something more inclusion, like inclusive and all that. So it's for people, the human to think about it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the speakers, Madeline. Thanks for sharing that story, and I really do hope that the world gets to see the Sebastian that you see, and hopefully the world will open its arms to welcome him, just like you've done throughout your life. And Chris, your presentation is very relevant to us at the University of SMU, and then also those who are in the education sector as well, and how to really think and rethink the way we approach capacity building programs for our children and our students and our young people. And Mark, your conversation, I hope that it sort of puts people, makes people uneasy, which I hope it will, because I think I want to challenge them. I want people to look at death in a different way. And I have to share one short anecdote. Perhaps there is one exercise that everybody can do at some point. You don't have to follow through, but maybe you can do it, because depending on how it goes, it might not cost a lot if you don't follow through. But I recently developed a will. The reason is because, well, I didn't think about that before, but then I like to do, I climb mountains. And then, so last year I did Mount Everest Base Camp. I climbed 2 other mountains in the way, and then just recently I climbed Kilimanjaro, which is the tallest mountain in Africa. So I had to create a will. Actually, that exercise forced me to think things that I never thought about. For example, I realized when you're dead already, you don't care and you're not aware of things. So actually what you're doing is for those people that are still living, on how they cope with your death. Because you obviously don't care or don't know at that particular moment. But for those that are living, so the will, the exercise is for those that, what happens, and even then I go into details like, okay, but if I die right away, but then how about if I'm in a vegetative state, right? So what do I do? Pull the plug, unpull the plug? What happens if there is a conflict between family members to think about, okay, so all of these things, I'm thinking, wow, I go into details like, okay, so I need to be specific on even, okay, what happened to your body later on, right? Because some people might challenge it, maybe, I don't know, a father or mother say, well, I'd rather burn, and the other one's criminal, and the other one say no. But I think that thing really forces you to see the world, your life differently, and your relationship with others as well, and what kind of legacy that you wanna leave behind, and what is your contribution so far in life? What is the meaning of life to yourself and for others, and all of these things. Anyway, so thank you again and for all of this, and thanks for those who are tuning in online. Feel free to reach us at any time through our social media channels and then our emails and things like that. Once again, thank you.
And thank you everybody for coming. This is My Social Space, a dialogue social inclusion. The dialogue doesn't end here. We invite you outside to help yourself to refreshments. Please enjoy your brunch and continue your dialogue there. Thank you again.